They say opposites attract.
Well, how about these opposites? Daddies and sons.
You're listening to Daddy and Son.
A podcast where we explore the dynamics of daddy and son relationships, multi-generational views.
And everything else in between.
Welcome back, daddies, sons, gays, theys, thems,
Everybody else.
and everybody else
Anybody else.
in between.
I'm Daddy.
And I am Son. And if you have been a long-time listener, you know what time it is. But if you are new to this show, welcome to Daddy and Son. My name is Alex,
And I'm Norm.
and in this show, we talk about a dynamic set of subjects from a multi-generational point of view, and oftentimes these subjects range from a different particular group of things. Today I want to start off by, because this is my show, this is our show,
Yeah.
and we have a particular way of doing things. We have our segments, but this is my therapy, and one of the things that I want to really go off on today.
It's rant time. We should tell people it's rant time.
Well, it's
first.
rant
Yeah,
time.
we start with rant
So
time.
please give us a 5-minute grace to kind of get this off our chest. And it's Friday. Get it off your chest, Friday. And
Yeah, that's a good one.
this week, I'm kind of pissed at the GOP, and
In the United States.
in the United States. I've always said the United States is like our big brother. If they catch a cold,
We get the flu.
we get the flu. If they sneeze, we get sick. And that has always been the case. No one has ever yet to prove me wrong. And with the latest confirmations, I mean, as if it was already not bad enough that Tulsi Gabbard was confirmed to be an intelligence director, but then RFK Jr. for health, I can't wrap my head around it. I just cannot wrap my head how the full house, well, not the full house, but you're looking at 52 to 48 with one particular GOP who I never thought in my lifetime I would see, Mitch McConnell.
Well, he's not been happy with Trump for some time.
Well, I think you remember when he seized up and froze in his press conference? I think he saw the face of Satan for all his sins
I think it was Trump he was looking at.
over the past years, and he just turned a new leaf. I mean, a little bit too what did JoJo say? It's a little too late. Too little too late. But good on him for growing a conscience. But, with them deciding that they're going to dismantle healthcare,
It is a shit show there.
and dismantling education.
I have a friend
Speaking
who,
of shit show,
well, I have a friend who works for NIH in Washington, and he is scared.
I would be too if I was a federal worker. Just thinking, honestly, the thought process of just being in a world where an anti-vaxxer is running the healthcare, like being a healthcare secretary, it just eludes me, just completely eludes me. And when you all are sick and dying and, scraping the border for healthcare and crossing over, stay over there with your sickness, stay over there with your madness. We don't want it. Now, moving on.
What's rant number 2?
Kendrick Lamar at the Super Bowl.
Oh, good. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl
All
today.
you white hicks out there that claim that you couldn't understand a word he was saying, or claim that this was the worst Super Bowl performance of all time, or claims that it was anti-American, or claim that you couldn't understand what he was saying, even though the whole performance was laid out for you. And you're the same you are the same people, excuse my language, that will go back and listen to Pootie Tang and System of a Down and say you understand every word. I bet if it was Kid Rock up there performing, you'd understand everything. But I digress. When the man comes on and says, the revolution shall be televised, and you chose the right time but the wrong guy, and literally says, I could sit in front of the Louvre and you still wouldn't get the full picture. He was talking directly at you. Shut up! That is so stupid. You all sound dumb. You all sound ridiculous. And black people shouldn't have to hear this bullshit in the middle of Black History Month. I am sick of it. And so are the rest of us. We are sick of it.
Oh.
Shut up.
So you didn't like Kendrick Lamar at all?
Oh, no. Let me tell you something. For the first time in my life, it's one thing if you don't like the performance and you say, hey, I'm not familiar with his body of work, so I didn't really like it or I didn't get it. But when you're going to say ridiculous things like, I couldn't understand the word that was coming out of his mouth, I'm like, no, you're reaching. When you're going to call the performance anti-American, Black history is American history. Black people, specifically black slaves, built the institution of America. Your schools, your libraries, the freaking White House.
So what's your comment about, you liked the show and it was a recount of history, wasn't it?
It was exactly. That is exactly what it was. It literally pisses me off when people are going to talk about, oh, it's a Super Bowl. We want to shake our ass. I wasn't entertained. Entertainment comes in different formats. What do you expect from someone with a Pulitzer Prize?
It was definitely a different type of halftime show. There was more politics and history in there than there's probably been in any show in a long time.
What do you expect from someone with a Pulitzer Prize? He's the first rapper in history to win a Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah, amazing.
Like, what do you expect from someone?
And record album of the year.
An album of the year. What do you expect from someone with a doctorate?
So let me ask, can I interrupt your rant? What do you think his statement towards Drake was, and was that valid?
I think it's ridiculous for people to boil down an entire performance to a 30-second segment into a song that he did. Yes, he took shots at Drake because it's a diss track of a song that won not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 Grammys this year, right? And so it's a hit song. So he performed it. It has nothing to do with Drake. In fact, he said in his own performance, this is bigger than the music. When Samuel Jackson came over and says, hi, I'm your Uncle Sam. This was for you idiots who it went all the way over your heads, and the meaning and the messaging was right there. It wasn't hidden in code. You didn't have to go through the hieroglyphics in Egypt to figure it out. You didn't have to take out your monocles.
You could have downloaded it on Apple Music and read along the text as he was singing too.
It was literally right there in plain text and in the English language. You all, shut up. You sound stupid. If you don't like it, just say you don't like it and move on. But with all the excuses, it's anti-American, it's anti-this, it's anti-that. Black history is American history. And I'm done. End scene. How you doing?
Good. I watched the Super Bowl too, by the way.
I know you're going to give me the jock perspective, so tell me. Let's talk sports.
Sports. Well, let me say, I was glad the Eagles won.
Go team.
I am a Buffalo Bills fan, as you know, and I did not want to see Kansas City go for a three-peat.
Is that who they were playing against?
I know you were more focused on the halftime show.
I mean, that's the
I
only
was
reason I was
more
there.
focused on the two halves of the football game, okay? I actually washed dishes during the halftime show, so forgive me, I only saw about 20 seconds of Kendrick Lamar, and I wasn't sure what I was looking at for a moment. Oh, that's Kendrick Lamar. Oh, that's great stuff. Keep going, Kendrick. I got to wash dishes. And
Which, as you should. You know how many times other people's faves are performing, and I'm just like, I don't understand what's going on. Okay, I'm gonna do something to fill this time. That's what you do. You don't. You go do dishes.
well, I did see the first few minutes of it, and you know what? There was so much build up to this halftime show, probably more than others. I mean, I've been watching the Super Bowl for years. I don't remember, particularly because the politics and the dispute with Drake, and then
Yeah.
and having won the Grammys right before. I mean,
Yep.
it was an amazing alignment of that was his moment. Whether
Yep.
you agreed with it, whether you understood it or not, that was his moment. And Black history is American history. It's
I
not
agree.
all of American history,
Of
but
course
it's part
not,
of
but
Black.
it's a part of
And
it.
it should be part of American history. And any school board in the South that tries to take it out, shame on you.
I mean, again, dismantling of the education system, which
Well-
that's for another podcast. But
It is, because we're having our own education system being dismantled right here in this country by people
God.
that don't want to
Can't
talk about
even.
the prime minister, the first prime minister. Anyway, that's another topic.
I'm fully convinced that with the U.S. trying to become a segregist society, and with all these deportations, I am convinced the Republican Party is trying to create a future class.
It's the Trump party, honey. It's the
Of-
Trump party, not the Republican
Sorry,
party.
I'm convinced MAGA is trying to create a class of sub-educated people in America so that they can justify
They're already there.
keeping a cap on minimum wage and filling in those people, all the migrants that they took from the fields, they took from the factories, they took from the construction working sites.
You mean and exported them, deported them.
They deported them.
Well, guess what happens
They're
when
trying to fill that with in history, there's a term that we call petit blanc.
white boys.
Poor white people.
Yeah. Well, guess what? There's a law of supply and demand in economics that when you reduce the supply of something, you increase the price. Guess what's going to happen with the deportation of all these people in the different cities, many of whom work and sustain small businesses of white people? It's going to bid up the price of labor.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
going to increase inflation.
For temporarily,
Yes.
but I believe that this is a strategy to create a class. This is to create a further divide between the haves and the have-nots.
I think you give too much credit to the strategy making of the people like Mr. Trump and company.
Have you read Project 2025?
No, I haven't, but I'm hearing that it's more and more becoming
Read
the printout of what's happening right
Read it.
now.
I'm telling you.
Fair enough. Good point.
Blueprint.
Yes, it is.
It's
That's
a
what I'm hearing.
blueprint for creating a class of a dividing class of people that have poor education, so their opportunities are less and less and less. And those are the people that they intend to push back into the fields other than the migrant community.
Or push back home because there's no work for them at all. Hey, can I say something? I remember
ahead.
when I was with the computer industry back in the 90s. Actually back in the 80s we did this report. And just when I was working for the Information Technology
Computers existed
Association.
then?
Yes, they did. In the 80s. I remember the day when a government person said, "Oh, so what you guys do, it's information technology." Anyway, one of the things that we were saying was we're going to move from a society of have and have-nots to a society of know and know-nots. And that's what's happening here. And the know-nots are going to be the have-nots, really. That's what's going to happen, right?
Yeah. I like that. The no-nots and...
The know-nots and the donuts.
I can't.
Oh, we haven't even got to today's topic, folks. Can you imagine? And I haven't even got my rant. Well, I've kind of got my rant as you've been ranting, so.
But to close up on the Super Bowl. So you're happy with the outcome?
Yes.
And speaking of Super Bowl, I think it has great context to,
Well, to what-
today's topic.
It sure does.
So
And it was the
today's a
Sup-
Norm production.
Okay. Yep.
Tell us.
Well, I had been, I watched the Super. I follow the NFL closely.
Big jock.
I've been, I was very disappointed the Bills didn't beat Kansas City. But having watched the game last Sunday, which many, many people did, 135 million people, they estimate. I don't know how they know that. I think the Bills would have got flattened by Philadelphia. So I'm happy that it ended up the way it did. But what struck me, and why I want to talk about the Super Bowl today, it's not so much what the Super Bowl game itself, it's what two people said. One of the broadcasters, whose name I'm trying to think of right now, and then
Give him a second while he
Patrick-
looks it up. Go ahead. Go
Patrick Mahomes said it. So both of these people,
Patrick Mahomes is the broadcaster?
he is the quarterback
He's the quarterback.
for
Kansas City?
for Kansas City.
Okay.
And the Fox broadcaster, former quarterback of the New England Patriots. Why is his name escaping me right now? It's terrible. This is what happens when one gets older. You have the name in front of you for a moment. But
And what is a quarterback for the rest of us who don't know sports? What is a quarterback exactly?
well, quarterback is the person that basically runs the game for that team.
So that's the captain of the team.
Yeah, and he takes the handoff and he does the throwing and all that other stuff. So
Oh,
that's-
because you see, when you say quarterback, I think of like, that sounds like something I order at Bojangles. Can I have a quarterback 2-piece, please? Leg and wing.
ooh.
It's like quarterback, breast and wing, leg and thigh. That's what I think about when I think about a quarterback. With a side of biscuit and lemonade. Which, by the way, what are we drinking today? I can't believe I'm the one asking.
It's called Decoy. It's one you suggested. It's a wonderful cab from
It is a
from
wonderful
California.
red. A Napa Valley
Oh.
blend.
Yes, and if we have a tariff war, we may not get any more of them.
Oh,
So
jeez.
this is the one of the kinds that will come off the shelf. Better stock up.
Girls, go out and stock up. We're going to take a quick break to refill, and we'll be right back. And we're back.
We're back.
Let's pick up where we left off. So you were saying there's
Yes, I was having a senior's moment of a name that I know very, very well. But what the background of this was, I noticed the comments by Tom Brady, who was doing former New England Patriots and Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback mostly for New England for many years.
on Tom Brady. You said it was the presenter.
He
Like
was
the-
he was the color commentator for Fox Sports. He's had a lot of criticism this year going from football to the press box, but I think he's starting to get his comfort
Why?
level.
Is it that he's terrible, or is that
He just I don't know. He's not quite it's hard to go from one career to another career all of a sudden, and
I do it all the time?
you do, but you're skilled. You're skilled, honey.
I'm just playing.
Yes. But my point is,
Yeah.
he made a comment about losing. And having been in a lot of Super Bowls, he's won a few, he's lost a couple. He's
Yeah.
won more than he lost. And he said, you always wear a loss on your resume. And you always learn from it. And I'm trying to remember the quote. You wear a loss on your resume forever when you lose. Winning is great, but it provides a very strong incentive to do better. And then what was interesting, I remember hearing him say this and thought, well, that's very credible. He's been there, and that's why they have him in the press box, so he can talk about his experience on the field.
Yeah.
After the game, I guess it was maybe the next day or later that evening, they're interviewing Patrick Mahomes, who was the very, very successful quarterback. Kansas City Chiefs won the last 2 Super Bowls, did not win last weekend.
Is he the guy from the Super Bowl commercial with Nike where they
Yes.
talk about? Oh,
Yes.
that was a really good commercial.
Yeah, he's the one down there, and then there's another fellow down in the hair. That's I forgot his name now, but
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
that's
I
him,
think
yeah.
I know who you're talking
And
about.
very successful and a good guy, down to earth.
Mm-hmm.
And he made a similar comment while being interviewed by the TV people at the end of the game, and Even he said, it's the worst thing in the world. It will stick with you the rest of your career. Very similar to what Tom Brady said. However, he went on to say, like Brady, it's a motivator to go back and win again. So what I was kind of puzzled with was, why is it that losing has more of an impact than winning? You remember one of them said, you remember the losses more than the wins.
Well, you know
They
what?
stick with you.
As someone, and this is just coming from me,
Hey,
as someone who is a minority individual, my whole life, I felt like I've had to work. I've literally had to work twice as hard to get half as much as my white counterparts in anything, whether that's in school, whether that's in the workplace. And so for me, I genuinely feel as though anytime I got a rejection
mm-hmm.
or I lost something, whether that's
A loss of some
a
kind.
debate,
Yeah.
or I was in spelling bee. Not literally, I was in spelling bee, or I'd lose, or I didn't come in the top 3 in class. It was always easier for me to be motivated by my mistakes so that I can prove that I deserve to be here. And I've always said this. In fact, I said this to a friend recently, just yesterday, ironically. Just yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
You learn more from your failures.
Yeah, that's what these guys are saying too.
You learn more from your failures and your rejections
Yeah.
than you do from your wins
And why do you think that
and your
is?
successes.
Is it because you examine them more, you analyze them more, or they hurt more?
Well, it could be a combination of both.
Yeah.
However, for me, it's because I understand when I sit, just like you said, analyze it more. After I sit with my analysis, I'm able to fully understand all the angles and the context in which I can be better.
You're more likely to second guess and replay in your mind the failure and imagine doing something different in your mind that would have resulted in a different outcome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because remember, even with successes and winnings, it doesn't mean there's not room for improvement.
For sure.
But oftentimes, especially if you're someone who is used to being told, yes, you're used to being told, you're great, you're used to winning, that a person like that is less likely to reflect on how they can be better
And try to be better.
and try to be better.
You know, it's funny, as I was thinking about coming down here, I remembered a conversation I had with a colleague of mine from business school, and I haven't seen her for a long time. We've kept in touch, but she said, Norm, and she said this years ago. Like, she said this when we were relatively younger people. Like, we would have been around 30 years old instead of what we are now. But anyway.
Okay, so my age, yeah.
She said, in life, it's the painful things you remember. And losing is pain.
Here, here.
And you know what? She was saying the very same thing. So I guess the point of all this is that losing and pain, while it's uncomfortable, can actually produce some benefit in your life.
Can I ask a question?
You may have to answer it too.
Well, I may have an answer for you.
Okay, well, ask your question and I'll see if my answer compares with your answer.
What's the biggest loss you've ever taken in life, and what have you learned from it?
Oh, God, you know it.
Do you
know
feel
it.
comfortable sharing on here?
Well, I would say that
Or an edited version?
No, I would just say this. I trusted somebody that I thought was trustworthy with some major investments that I made. And it came in a time in my life when I was looking for affirmation and friendship and love. And this person was, frankly, evil. He walked away with a few $100,000 of my money.
Yeah.
That is the thing I think about, not all the time, but quite often. And I think, damn, if I had some of that money today, I could book a business class trip to Europe and be gone in no time. So those are losses, but I've learned from that. I've learned about, you know, observing people more carefully. I've learned to be aware of my needs.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned to, you know, it's a very painful lesson that I believe, and you and I have talked about this. I believe God allowed it to happen to teach me things that would benefit me more in the future. And I have not made a similar mistake since.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah. Mind you, I haven't had that much money to waste away either.
Oh, please.
Oh, shit.
You've been able to make that tenfold. You've been blessed.
I have been.
You have been blessed, and that's again, that's you've learned from that loss. I think every obstacle that is put in our path is put there for a reason. What do black people in the South say? There's no testimony
Without the test.
without aim.
My ex used to say that.
Halakashamba.
My ex used to say that.
There's no
Yeah.
testimony without a test. Let me get an amen.
Mm-hmm. Amen, honey.
I think, you know, you've analyzed it.
Yeah, to death.
And you've taken away a valuable lesson. I think for me, one of the biggest losses that I have had was the loss of not being able to stay long enough in the UK to be a citizen.
Oh.
In fact, it was one of the biggest, not only one of the biggest losses, but one of the biggest risks I've ever taken. Coming to this country.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you came from the UK to here.
Yeah.
Well, you've done very
you were
well
there,
here.
You were there at my immigration hearing.
Yes.
And it was one of those things that I thinking back on it, I took the risk of coming here for love, and I lost that person because when I finally moved here to be with them, they didn't love me, and they broke up with me.
I know other people that's happened to.
And
It's unfortunate, but it does happen.
I chose to stay.
I'm glad you did.
The lesson that I learned from that was, especially at such a young, tender age of 19, I learned that you can rebuild. You can reinvent yourself. And you can overcome even in the darkest times. I think that was part of the reason. When you were going through your situation, it was easy for me to.
I was a model for you.
Yeah.
Or I was helpful to you could.
I was able to be helpful morally.
Yes.
Provide a
You
support
were.
in a meaningful way.
You were very helpful and supportive.
Because I've had to rebuild my life, especially in a time where I'm most vulnerable, which you were vulnerable, and not just financially, emotionally as well.
Yeah,
You were
emotionally,
vulnerable.
It was a shitty time.
Right? And also, you know, I think about it from time to time. If I had stayed in the UK, I would probably be so much further in life now. I would probably own property. My life would probably look way different. Or probably not. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But
who knows, eh?
what I do know was that I taught myself how to rebuild. So remember we were talking earlier about changing careers.
Yes.
I've had to do it
Yeah.
so many times, and that was one of the greatest lessons that I learned out of my loss. One of my greatest losses.
You know, you remember you were at my 70th birthday party a year and a half ago, and the comment
It was quite the affair.
It was, and you were great. You did the cake and were a wonderful person there. But the comment by Rick I shouldn't identify his name. His name was Rick. He said, and people went around the room and got up and talked, and I was quite humbled by what people were saying. And then he said, what impressed me about Norm is the ability to reinvent himself. And I had never thought of that before. I'd never thought of it that way. I just thought, well, life's about overcoming problems and, getting on with life and kind of, but yeah, we really do have to sometimes pick up and put it all back together. And I'm kind of doing that myself now.
What other option is there?
Well, that, or you can mope and be depressed forever, and who wants to live like that?
The only alternative is to put yourself in a hole. You might as well just dig your own hole.
Oh, forget
and
it.
sit in it.
Yeah.
And just sit in it. I've said, again, speaking to friends recently, I actually said this to a friend earlier this week or late last week. I said, you're allowed to be depressed and you're allowed to be sad.
For a while.
But don't be sad and depressed for too long.
Exactly. Why do you and I think so much alike? We're supposed to have different attitudes to things, and yet we're different generations, and we agree on more things than we disagree with.
We do have those moments from time to time.
Oh, we certainly do, especially on what kind of wine we should be buying. But let's not go there.
What do you say? I'm in the $20 range. You're in the $40 range.
Yes. Yes. He flies business class, I fly economy. It should be the other way around, folks, but it isn't.
He's rolling. A little bit of behind the scenes chatter that happened earlier that had me hollering, but yeah, I said to him, be depressed. You're allowed to be depressed, but don't sit there being depressed for too long.
And that's good. You weren't judgmental. You were allowing him to experience what he was experiencing, yeah. But the next thing is you can turn it around.
You have to, and no, I can only be here to support you.
As you turn it around.
As you turn it around.
Right.
But the motivation to do so has to come from within.
Exactly. Notice I was pointing to my chest, within, right.
Has to come from within.
Yeah.
It must come from deep inside you. That nobody else can do that for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can hold your hand, but you still need to get up off the floor.
I said to somebody the other day, I'm still trying to decide if I'm unemployed or retired.
I think at 74 we can easily say.
Hey, hold on, I'm not that old. 71.
You're 71?
Mm-hmm.
I'm mixing you up with another friend. Sorry.
That's fine. I'm glad to see you
like
have more
daddies.
than one daddy friends out there.
You know, like the daddies.
It's funny. I was in an office the other day dealing with somebody I was signing some papers and we were wrapping up a deal, and she made some comment about something, and I said, "Well, ma'am, I'm 71," and she said, "You're 71? You don't act 71." And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Usually people say I don't look 71, which I think you said
I say
that
all the time.
But I've never had somebody say I don't act 71. And
I mean,
maybe that's
you
the
do
secret.
walk upright and with lots of vigor and energy
in
your step.
But isn't that what somebody should do after they've had a loss? Eventually, they get over the downness, they get over the depression. Here was the other comment, by the way, in that article that I wrote. It was the comment by the coach of the Kansas City Chiefs.
What is it? Go
Andy,
ahead, bring up the quote.
Yeah, I'll have to find it here. Hang on a second.
One eternity later.
Yeah, it was Andy Reid. After every football game, and it's the same with basketball and hockey, athletes and their coaches go in front of the media. That's part of the deal.
Okay.
So they interview both quarterbacks, they interview both coaches, and they go to the losing coach, who's Andy Reid of the Kansas City Chiefs, and he says, okay, we'll let it hurt for a while and then figure out how to do better. And those words crystallize the right response to a loss.
Yeah.
And that's why he is a great coach.
Wait, isn't the coach for the opposite team like a black woman?
No.
No?
No, the coach of the forget the guy's name.
Or the assistant coach, I think.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, there was some, maybe, but possible.
Because I remember that being a historic moment as well.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was an assistant coach. I think it was a black woman. Yeah, she's the first.
For Philadelphia, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I
The first female coach or assistant coach to ever win the Super Bowl or something like that.
We'll research that. You're right. I think that rings a bell, but I don't know the team, the Eagles, as well as I know Kansas City because they're in the conference that the Bills are in. Anyway, the point being, he reinforced exactly what his quarterback and what Tom Brady had said about winning is lousy, losing is lousy, but it produces probably more wins in the long term than it does losses. If you approach it correctly.
Reflections. Like absolute and constructive reflections.
Yeah.
I completely agree. Thank you for bringing that to our awareness today.
Well, I'm glad it was topical. And
Not
just
topical.
for those who are interested, spring training baseball starts in about 10 days. So that's another sport.
Is it hockey time? Because
it'll be playoff time in 2 months in hockey. Right now they're pausing for the Four Nations playing. But
what now?
There's 4 nations are playing: Canada, U.S., Finland, and Sweden. They're interrupting the NHL season for this special round-robin tournament of the 4 best teams. The best players from those 4 countries are now playing a round-robin. But the NHL playoffs will resume, or the NHL season will resume at the end of February, and then we'll have the playoffs start in April. But baseball season starts in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh.
You know what? There's always some sport going on.
But I just assume that because it's winter time and it's so bloody cold outside it was hockey season.
It is hockey season. It is. We're in the middle of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, we've got a couple months before the playoffs start. The playoffs start in the spring. And that's always a great time.
I can always depend on you to keep me on track with the sports. Go team.
Yeah. Norm the Jock. Daddy Jock.
You can listen. I'm pretty sure there are some listeners out there right now, male or female, that are right on the same page with you, and I'm pretty sure that there are some that are right there on the same page with me.
Oh, that's fine. You don't have to be a sports fan to enjoy life.
There we go.
You know,
the one thing I will say about sports, or in general, is particularly to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I think the marrying or the merging of pop culture and sports lately, like Taylor Swift being at the Super Bowl, or like Trump. And I say pop culture because I still don't think of Trump as a politician. I think of him as a pop culture figure.
Wow.
He is the
Interesting.
freaking Apprentice. He is a media personality. I'm sorry. I do not see him as
well,
a politician.
Well, I think you've got a good point there.
So, pop culture.
He's certainly not an intelligent politician. You can't understand what tariffs are going to do to you, for goodness sake. That is just going to undo the country, but that's another issue. Carry on.
And that's for another podcast. But I think the marrying of the two, I mean, again, fair case in point, him taking over the Kennedy Center.
That's ridiculous.
That is
what?
divorce.
Why is that on why is that in your mind?
Because it's going to help decrease the price of eggs.
And on that,
but I'm just saying that to say, I wouldn't have known who Travis Kelce is if it wasn't for pop culture and marrying with sports.
and he didn't catch a pass until the second half, I don't think, in the Super Bowl. But that's you digress.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
All I know is the dude handles an interview so well.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's media trained or if he's just naturally gregarious.
He's a great football player, and he'll probably be a very good color commentator like Tom Brady.
Probably better.
Yeah.
I think he's really great with media. Like, no matter what questions people throw at him,
He's had a good coach.
he's
Coach S.
coaches. A coacherette. he's really, really good.
Yeah.
He's really good. I must say that. But anyhow, as we wrap up today, is there any final words that you want to say for the audience?
Not really. I think I've said most of them.
Okay. Well, I just my last few words for our audience today is, stay conscious, show love, learn from your mistakes,
And pick yourself up after you lose or you fall.
pick
that would be
yourself
my
up if
final
you lose
words.
or you fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you are a white person listening today or an other, call your black friends, check on them, love thy black neighbor.
Love all neighbors. Well, it is Black History Month, too.
And you know, Black history doesn't have to be the greats. It doesn't have to be the Harriet Tubmans or the Marcus Garveys of the world. You know, talk to your black friends, talk to your black neighbor, talk to your black boss or your black subordinate, and find out their history. You know, their history matters too. The memories of the people in our lives matter too, especially the unsung heroes, especially our minority folks that don't get a place in this world. So, yeah. And on that note, thank you everyone for listening to today's episode. If you've made it all the way to the end, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and anywhere else that you get your podcast, including our YouTube channel. You can subscribe to it. It's called Daddy and Son. If you have any other questions for the show, send them over to daddyandsonpodcast@gmail.com. Speaking of which, we got our first listener letter. Would you like to hear it before
Sure.
we wrap up today? So I didn't actually read this. I just saw it come in. I said, "Yippee!" I'm not gonna wait to like unveil this together with.
Be
Daddy
careful in
Norm.
what you're reading, pal.
The subject said, "Help. I accidentally fell for my straight best friend." Says, "Hi, Norman Alex. Sorry, let me put on my Mother Goose glasses. Child.
Oh, cock.
I never thought I'd be in this situation, but here I am. My best friend, in parentheses it says, let's call him Drake. This is definitely a Canadian. And I have been inseparable for years. We met in college, and since then, we've done everything together, including late night subway runs, weekend trips, even surviving terrible exes. He's straight, or at least that's what he's always said to me, and I never really thought of him in that way until recently. Lately, he's been acting different, more affectionate, more physical. He calls me pet names, sends good morning texts, and gets low-key jealous when I talk about guys. The other day, we were watching a movie at my place, and he fell asleep with his head on my lap. My brain short-circuited. But here's the problem. I think he's caught feelings, and I swear he's giving mixed signals. But I don't want to be that gay who misreads things and makes it awkward. Am I imagining this? Do straight guys just act like this? Should I say something or should I shut it down? Help me before I lose my friend and my mind. P.S. Love the show. Confused and crushing.
That's a great letter, isn't it?
It's a good letter.
Wow.
I think it came from someone from Discord because someone reached out to me on the Discord and they asked me to repeat the mail in email.
Okay.
So I think I know who it is, but they didn't say their name.
That's fine. We
so
don't
I'm
need
not
to
going
know.
to say their name.
Yeah, we don't need to know. Well, here's my thought on it. Trust your gut. It sounds like this guy, but also have a conversation with him. You've known him long enough to know you can level with him and be honest. Hey man, are you starting to, explore the other side of the sexual paradigm, or are you just, really glad to see me each time we get together?
It does surprise me in this day and age that there are still people who are in their late 20s, in their late 30s. I've even met someone like last year who is in his 40s, who is just coming out the closet. It does surprise me, and I wouldn't be shocked if this particular friend
Is doing just that?
is doing just that.
Yeah.
Um,
Could be.
but my policy, honestly, is if they're straight, if they identify as straight, no matter what behavior they display,
Yep. They'll flip back to straight every time.
exactly. And they have the right to, right? Sexuality is not a choice, but it is a spectrum. And people have the right to experiment. However, you as an individual also have the right to have boundaries and not be a test subject. And my philosophy is straight people, we love them as friends, we love them as listeners. Shout out to all the straight people out there. Hey.
Mm-hmm.
That are
Or people that
listening
think they're straight. And I'm sure we have a few of those.
the buy and the questioning.
Yes.
We love you too. We love
Yes.
you too. We love your listenership.
Yeah.
But I don't know if this is something particularly that I would pursue. Norm, Daddy thinks that you should proceed with caution. Maybe that's from his own experience.
Well, he wants advice on what to do. And so either you continue with this, uncertainty and tension about what's going to happen, or you, hey, listen, bud, I really like what you're doing, but I kind of want to know whether you're just trying to make an advance or not. I mean, he could also respond to it and see what happens, but that might, he doesn't want to do that.
Yeah, like
He wants some clarity. That's what he wants.
he doesn't
here.
want to lose his friendship.
He doesn't want to lose
said.
his
Doesn't
friendship.
Make it awkward.
No, but he wants some clarity because he thinks he's not sure of the message he's getting. And I think it's fair to want to have clarity from a
That's
communication.
true too. It's fair to want clarity.
Yeah.
I just think that, let us just say for argument's sake, that the listener does go ahead and approach this friend, and let's say the friend is questioning and they, do the hokey pokey and to turn things around, and then things go south,
Yeah.
then you've definitely lost a friend.
Potentially.
Potentially.
Yeah.
So for me, I think this is something that you need to ask yourself the question,
What are you
how
looking
important is it to have clarity on this? And what questions do you need answered? Whether you get the answers from him or from somebody else, to take comfort in shutting this down and maintaining your friendship with him.
Well, I think they need to talk about it, and they need to make maintaining their friendship the priority. And if they're both open with each other, they will make the right choice.
There you have it, listener. And for everyone else, if you have any questions for the show, send them over to daddyandsonpodcast@gmail.com. You will get some expert advice from Daddy Norm. He has 71 years of experience to share.
I love your glasses, by the way.
Thank you. Don't I look studious?
Very.
Studious in the studio. So, until next time, what do we say? Sons, be good to your daddies.
And daddies, be kind to your sons.
Until next week, bye.